So as you guys know, I could tell stories all day long. And, I look at a lot of the stories as truly a blessing. I've had an incredible journey in my almost 36 years of highs and lows, some great failures and some great successes in between. But this has to be probably one of the cutest stories, and I would say a story that I'll tell my kids forever and ever, because it just, I'm never really starstruck, but to become friends with a legend or an icon is so cool. So probably about a year ago, we don't get too many walk-ins to the Miami showroom. We are directly across the street from Bugatti and Bentley in Miami, but really, we don't advertise too much to the Miami community. People call us like a museum, basically. So we get a lot of, car nerds, enthusiasts, whatnot. So a gentleman walks in, and he looked so familiar. And I knew him from somewhere. I had met him. I might have sold him a car. I couldn't really remember. So we start talking, and he's really seems like a very nice guy. And I'm saying, I know this guy. Where do I know him from? And he says, oh, you remember me, right? And I says, yeah, yeah, I think I do. And he starts talking about, hey, the girl we dated, and he's talking about a girl that apparently we had, both dated or something. And for a second, I thought he was talking about my wife, and I was actually getting a little upset. And I'm like, wait, what? And he goes, that crazy girl. And what are you talking about? Ends up, I realize it's Eddie Irvine, the former Formula One driver. Luckily, he was not talking about my wife. He was talking about a former girlfriend of mine that we had both dated. And I realized that I had actually met Eddie probably 6 years prior to that at a local men's sort of boutique pop-up where we had a Countach on display. I was invited over. I was told that Eddie was interested in the car. And we started discussing, and we realized at the time we were actually dating the same girl at that time, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And I just told him, hey, run, she's crazy. And we built this like sort of nice, harmony in our conversation. We were talking about cars. And he told me that he really loved Jaguar E-Types and Lamborghini Countaches, which, hey, I love Lamborghini Countaches and I do love E-Types. So we definitely formed a bond. And I realized, okay, that's why he's familiar. He's obviously a racing legend, raced Ferrari Formula One, raced Jaguar Formula One. I mean, the guy's an icon in arguably the greatest period of Formula One racing of our time. So we ended up spending probably an hour together that day here, and we're talking about cars, and he's telling me about his 288 GTO that he once had. He loves 959s. And he has always wanted a Countach, but he was concerned of values. And we actually stayed in touch. So a few weeks would go by. I'd text him a Countach. He'd ask me what I was thinking. And I would say probably a year went by where we're just nerding out between each other about Countaches. What do you think about this? And I would give him advice. And it got to be pretty fun because his response always was, oh, that's too much money. I'm not paying. And after about a year, I had realized that he had never even driven a Countach. And I was trying to explain to him that it is really a good car. Like, don't be scared. Don't listen to some of the negative media about the car, or especially people that have never driven one. Excuse me. And I think it was in last year, there was a RM Sotheby's Abu Dhabi sale, and there was this really incredible LP 400S Series 1 coming up at auction. What was cool about the car is, let's face it, any LP 400S is incredible. If it's an early Series 1 car, it has those great, I always talk about them, the Bravo style wheels. And if it's a very early car, it has the small gauges. And I would say most of the cars were red. So to find a car that's dark blue or an interesting color of blue is just spectacular, because I really do believe an early Countach LP 400S, if you ask me my favorite color, it's probably a Tahiti blue or blue metallizzato, a shade of blue. So this car comes up at the sale, and it's got some interesting carburetors on it that are not original. The history of the car is cool because the first owner actually built the car as like a Countach SV. So he put these side skirts, he put these big BBS wheels, and the car actually looked really, really good. And the first owner had actually also been the same gentleman that created the Mura SVR, which is now a very famous car. Historians recently discovered that it was actually built by the factory. So this guy was historically a significant person in Lamborghini history. So the car's coming up for auction. It had a bunch of things wrong at the time. It still had the side skirts. It had the wrong wheels. It had this weird carburetors affixed to the car. And I'm telling him, hey, this could be a great opportunity for a Countach. So we're back and forth. So I was actually bidding on the car. And we laughed that, maybe I'd be bidding for him. I said, well, if I get it, we'll work something out. And at the time, I was telling him, hey, we should probably stop bidding. I'd like to be just, because the car needs a restoration, I'd like to be just in $300,000 for the car, which I believed was a steal. A fully restored LP 400S, they sell between $600,000 and $900,000. So I said, listen, it's a steal, great color, great history. So I'm bidding, and we're literally on Instagram, like two kids texting each other about where did you bid and this and that. And I forget my final bid. I could actually look back at photos, but I think I was at like 275 plus fees. So just under 300 or just right at 300. And I'm winning. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the auction, there's one more bid or something happens. The auction ends, and I'm like, oh, did I get it? Who actually got it? Well, I didn't end up winning the car, and I told Eddie, I said, listen, don't worry. It's not a big deal. We'll find you another car. Cool car, but, So a couple months go by, and ends up I get a message from Eddie one day, and he says, you'll never believe it. Guess who bought that car? And I go, who? And he says, my sister, she bought it from me at the auction as a birthday gift. And I was like, what? So the funniest part is that she probably paid more because of us, because we were bidding against her. But the best part about it was that I think actually Eddie was pretty disappointed that he didn't end up with his car. I'm pretty sure that dark blue is his favorite color. One of the early cars would have been his favorite car. So it ended up working out sort of perfectly. So now months have gone by. Eddie hasn't seen the car yet. He's so excited. He finally gets the car. And just recently, he finally drove it for the first time. And I had always been waiting in anticipation to see what Eddie Irvine, the Formula One legend, would say about driving a Countach. And, I have to say, I felt like a proud dad in a way, because he loved the car. He said it was incredible. He didn't understand why people were so negative about them. And really, in our discussions, he didn't even understand why are they still so cheap, compared to a 288 GTO, or compared to, these cars that, an LP 400S Countach, they produce less than 150. We had this discussion, and I think it's definitely an honor to see that Eddie is a fellow Countach lover. He's very, very passionate, and he definitely, one way or the other, got his dream car. What a birthday gift. I mean, I don't have a sister, but I don't know. that's as pretty much as good as it gets. And he's definitely someone that deserves to have a Countach, drive it and enjoy it. And cheers to Eddie.